Welcome to Root Cause. I'm Nunem. This is where we get to the root cause of things. Architectural decisions that aged badly, leadership transitions nobody prepares you for, or the hype cycles that keep repeating themselves. If you have ever thought, am I crazy for questioning this? You are in the right place. If you've been following me for a while, you can see that I'm working on putting content online. Long form on Substack, short form on LinkedIn, and podcasts here on the platform of your choice. This has exposed me again to the world of marketing, keywords, SEO, and all of that. And frankly, as a creator, I'd rather just create. And some people say, well, you just post, be yourself, and the algorithms will eventually catch up. Other people are all about the right keyword, the rankings, and whatnot. Today, I want to talk about an emerging topic. As far as I understood, the industry hasn't even settled for a name for it yet. AI search, answer engine optimization, artificial intelligence optimization, generative engine optimization, whatever we end up calling it, the underlying question is the same. When people stop Googling and start asking ChatGPT, what happens to being findable? With a background in mathematics, and I'm loving the fact that I have a fellow mathematician on this podcast again, Tamena Haig spent years as a data scientist and then lead data scientist in Manchester, leading a team building production AI on real customer data, topic modeling, sentiment analysis, semantic search, those unglamorous machinery that actually ships. And recently she co-founded Cite AI with her husband Jonas. Cite measures how AI models perceive a brand and then tells you, signal by signal, what to fix. When Tamana approached me, I had never heard the term GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. And I have to admit, I was, and still am, a bit skeptical about the topic. Isn't SEO enough? Isn't there too much AI slop being generated daily, and now we need to work around it by manufacturing the presence of our brand or personality? I'm sure the topic is more nuanced than that, so Tamana is here today to honestly answer the questions I wrote down as a person who's hearing the term for the first time. Tamana, welcome to Root Cause, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Nuna. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited for the conversation.
Cool. So before we define anything, I want the human version. You've spent a decade shipping production AI as a data scientist, and you're a new mom. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
And somewhere in your personal time, you and your husband, Jonas, decided to build a product in AI visibility of all places. And as far as I can tell, this is the first time you're publicly speaking about it. So I want to understand what did you see in the market that made you think it's a good idea to spend the evenings building this product, and why now and why you?
Awesome. Well, I think I was quite late to the generative AI journey in terms of personal use. Obviously, I was learning about it in late 2022, early 2023. That's when I started to learn about it. But I didn't start to use it in my personal life then. It was towards the end of maternity leave in early 2025 that I actually really ramped up my use of generative AI in my personal life. And we just began to use it for a few things here and there, but then our use of it really ramped up to the point where we're using it to plan nearly end-to-end our holidays and plan some baby feeding development charts and really personal things like that. And from our usage journey, from our own journey, we realized that we are discovering new brands, products, services, companies, and people, content creators through generative AI. So we realize that actually we're learning new things and we're trusting the recommendation that generative AI tools such as ChatGPT has given us. We're almost like not challenging it, we trust that recommendation. And we realize that actually, wouldn't companies and people like to optimize for that? Because some of them may be a really good recommendation, but they're actually not visible or known to AI. And my husband came back from Sweden back home in December last year, and he said that we should build our own tool, and that's what we went ahead and did. So it's been a challenge juggling home life, day job, and baby life, but we've managed to do that in our personal time.
Interesting. So you're basically eating your own dog food. So you build a tool for yourself, and you're now making a company out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard that phrase before, eating your own dog food. That's exactly what we've done, yeah.
Cool. So if help me understand what is GEO, and I bet there are people who are hearing it for the first time as well. Can you define that?
Sure. So GEO stands for Generative Engine Optimization, which in essence means can you optimize yourself and be the recommendation. So when someone is searching generative AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or the like, can you be the definitive answer? Can you be the recommendation? So it's almost like you're optimizing your website, your content to try and be readable for these AI tools and then be that recommendation. That's what generative engine optimization is. But other people kind of call it different things like AI search optimization, AI visibility optimization. So there's a few different terms. I feel like in industry it's still not decided yet, but we've just gone for GEO for now.
So this brings me to basically the main point for me, which is how is it different from SEO? Because the way I understand the LLMs, or let's say the harnesses around them, the ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity, they basically use web search as well when they try to answer your questions. So aren't they as a proxy using what a search engine would return? And as a layman, I would say, well, I will just do SEO, and then as a consequence hope that GEO will also catch up.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid perspective, Nune, and I've definitely had to do my own research about that as well. A lot of the big players in SEO also want people to believe this. They want people to believe that GEO and AI visibility is like an extension or an add-on to search engine optimization. But it's completely different when we've really delved into it. So with search engine optimization, you want to optimize for keywords, and you want to make as much as possible, make sure that you're ranked high in a list of results. And humans are able to navigate those list of results and make their own selection. With AI search, so not traditional search, it's completely different because you don't want to be an option. You want to be the answer, not in a human's mind. A human will not make the selection. AI is making a selection. It's giving an answer. It's giving a recommendation. So that's how I feel is different. And I think companies do also need to take care of search engine optimization. It's not going anywhere. It definitely helps your AI visibility to have good SEO, but there's so much around that as well that I would say good SEO helps, but it's just a subset of what helps you be visible to AI.
So if I understood correctly, it's sort of the step that comes after it. You get search engines to see you, And then you also need to make sure that all the AI engines, when they discover you in the output, they distill the right version of you and show it to their users.
Yeah, it's
Would that be fair?
I think that's fair. Like you want AI to have the correct version of you, but you also want to make sure you're in AI's mind, in their knowledge layer, and because AIs have a vast span of knowledge, and you want to kind of make sure that you are verified, which basically means that you're cited in lots of different places, you've got a clear proposition, and yeah, hopefully that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, probably also you need to somewhat reverse engineer what are the data sources LLMs use for training. I assume Reddit and forums and things like that.
Yeah.
And then be able to advise the companies and people where to put their content so that it's correctly searched by the LLMs.
But it's exactly that. It's the what. So what content that you should be talking about, where. So where should that content be featured? And you've mentioned some really good websites. Things like Reddit are inherently trusted. Review websites, Capterra G2, tools like this are really trusted by AI. But it's also the how. So how should the text be formatted, for instance? So all of those things really help your AI visibility.
Regarding the how, so a lot of people are worried about how much AI slop is flooding the internet already. There are AI generated articles, AI generated descriptions, AI checking and summarizing AI output. And now you're basically telling me that I need a tool that sort of helps me engineer this content around what AI is expecting. Are you not worried that this means that we will, add to the slop machine?
I think what the first thing I would say is I agree with you. Like, but the AI slot machine, is such a turn off. Like when I see people on LinkedIn, for instance, I can tell straight away when they've used AI to generate their posts, and find it a little bit of a turn off. And I'll just scroll past that post. I want to see people's real voice and see their own text on a post. So I fully, I do not like the AI slop machine. What we what GEO is and what AI visibility is, and in terms of improving your visibility, we aren't advocating for slop at all. So we do tell you what content you should write about, which websites you should target, and how you can make it in a machine readable way. But we're not saying use AI to generate that. We're still, that's up to you. So that's your own vice. AI generated content is not necessarily more readable to LLMs than human generated content. So on this one, I would say no. Like we're not advocating to go for AI generated content. We're just helping you with the what, the where, and the how.
I think it's an important thing that you have also noticed that AI generated content is not necessarily the best content for optimizing your brand, right? So we're back to you need to be genuine in order to get noticed not only by humans but also by AIs.
Exactly. And even, AI generated content, I just don't feel like they get the tone of voice correct. And, it's, sure, you can pump out a lot of content quickly using AI to generate it. But I think I would definitely caution it, because AI visibility, it's not looking for masses of content about you. It's trying to optimize. So moving from masses of content being more purposeful. Instead of 10 articles here, let's have 3 in these defined spaces.
I think that brings me to the question that these AI models are and engines under the AI models, they are changing quite fast now. New models shipping, new players coming along. How do you manage to keep up with that, and how much of a difference do you notice from version to version or from engine to engine? So will it be that I need to continuously optimize my content, or will I have the chance to optimize it once and then hope that it will work with continuously changing LLMs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really thoughtful question, Nune. I think that to a degree, if you embark on the AI visibility journey and you optimize for LLMs and AI, to a degree, some of that legwork that you do will endure. However, there will always be optimization to work on. And that's the reason why we recommend that people always continuously look at their AI visibility and monitor it as well. So it's definitely not just a one-time exercise. It's something that you'd continuously do. And yes, like between various models with different versions of models and different upgrades, things can change. But that's just the nature of models. So we just kind of keep our eye on those changes and just make sure that our signals that feed that score, just make sure that we're tweaking those and making sure that we are also staying up ahead with those. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are now. We used to open different browsers like Google and Bing and different search engines and search for the same thing. Nowadays, people open different LLMs and search the same thing, trying to understand which product is better or which way is better. Which brings me to also one thing that I heard, that there is a study that says millennials use Chat GPT and the like in a different way than Gen Z does. So we millennials, we do mostly search, and it replaced sort of Google for us. And as you said, you also used it for your life bookings and all that, whereas Gen Z is using it more of a body to talk with and back and forth with the conversation. Do you see that yourself in the data that you are dealing with, and what does it actually mean for brands? Can they basically use that information to optimize it differently for different age groups?
Yeah, I think this one's a really interesting one, Nune, and a few people in the GEO space are kind of thinking about this, because in the millennial mode that we're speaking about, where people are kind of searching using AI, that's more straightforward because that's a retrieval problem. We can help with that quite quickly, and you want to make sure that you are the structured, citable thing when the query is fired with that AI. But with the buddy mode or the conversation mode, the AI, it's also got information about you, and it's also got some information about your habits and your preferences. So the answer from search mode versus conversation mode, if the same question was asked, it's true that a different question could appear to someone using the search, more for search versus more for a buddy or conversation. And I think that's like a really nice thing, actually. I do think AI should optimize for people's preferences. It's a harder thing to make sure that you're cited, because people's preferences are so varying, are so unique. It is definitely harder, but you should hopefully be the answer for your target audience. So I definitely think it's worth content creators, businesses, enterprises knowing who their target audience is, I think that would increase the likelihood of being cited in these buddy chats. Yeah.
So the basics of marketings are not gone. I mean, you need to know your audience, and you need to use the wording, and you need to have the features or services that are more needed by your audience, and then build the brand around it, right?
100%. And actually, I really like how you framed that, Nune. Like I almost see Generative AI as a marketing platform, and I see that marketeers could make good use of this platform, but also make sure that they've got their basics correct. They know who their audience is, and yeah.
Which brings me to, I wanted to ask you if you see Generative AI and probably generally GEO topic suited more for B2B arrangement or like brand marketing, or also for people like me who are creators using it to be able to optimize for their niche?
I think it's a great question. I would say both. So I think Generative AI is useful for businesses, but also useful for consumers as well. So, for consumers, they're likely searching products and services, and we'll probably be looking, AI will probably be looking at reviews and social proof. I would also say that that's more of a low stakes game, whereas B2B is more high stakes. The work that you want to do as a business, you want to make sure that you are structured, so your work is structured in the right way, because you want to be the definitive answer to get loads of customers. So it's no longer just about I'm as a solo person searching for a new pair of trainers. It's more I have a product, I have a service, and I want to make sure that people can find me when they're searching in this topic. So I do think B2B is the most winnable. It's the most valuable. B2C is slower. It's more of a brand game, really. But both benefit from looking at GEO. But I think especially creators benefit.
I remember in the old movies where people wanted to create a fake persona quickly, they would go into Wikipedia, create a page for this person, then quickly create some more landing pages about this person, and this spy would go into the job and do whatever they need to do. Now, that's not far-fetched. I mean, you could create a lot of content and push it to different websites. Are you worried that AI is making it worse and people can basically manufacture a persona or even a brand that doesn't exist or that's not good enough, but they just use the right ways to optimize it?
It's a really interesting question, Nune. And just thinking about that one, I think some people could definitely do that. And what I'd say is it's also true for SEO. It's also even true if two people applied for a role and they went for a job interview. One might be better at the game. They might be better at actually conducting an interview. The other person might be less experienced in that way. Their actual tangible experience might be better, but because they couldn't conduct the interview as well, they may not get the role, and a less experienced person may get the role. So, it's more of it's a bigger question, really, in terms of who deserves that top spot. Is it someone who's optimized for AI visibility, or is it someone who's actually better? And I think the second, it is more subjective. It's not objective. If I was searching for what I think is the best makeup brand, it may not actually be the best makeup brand, for instance, but this one has marketed themselves in a better way. They have become the answer for me. So I think this is the stakes in a lot of different areas. Yeah.
I think you're right, but I also have changed my attitude to this because yes, you can push a lot of marketing and then get your brand in front of a lot of people, but eventually they will try it, and if it's not good, they will quickly switch to something else because of the fierce competition in every industry. So I think people who are creating good content or creating good products but don't have the resources to market it, they need to still use these kind of tools or these techniques or whatever they can afford to give a fair chance to their product, idea, content. So they shouldn't just say, yeah, I am this genius and I'm sitting in my room and nobody can know, and it's it's vanity to put myself out there. It still makes sense to do some maybe minimalistic things to get your content more visible.
Yeah.
But eventually, like, people now with their short attention spans, they will switch to something else if it's not good enough. So
Yeah.
eventually it will settle into the right place.
I mean, I agree with that completely. I think people are more demanding of quality these days. They can find alternatives much quicker now. So I do think it kind of comes back to basic marketing principles as well. Like, don't like say that you're someone that you're not. Don't make false promises. Be authentic, but use try and be visible, but be authentic. Like, I definitely celebrate that, and like you said as well, give yourself as much as possible a fair chance to do your product justice. Yeah.
Um, let's get a bit technical and get to I want to get to understand how you do that. You have a positioning on your website that it is deterministic scoring.
Yeah.
And everybody knows LLMs are generating text, so they're sort of non-deterministic in that sense.
Yeah.
How do you manage to wrap that into some deterministic score?
Yeah. I think that's a really good question, Nune. And this is something we've tweaked along the way on our journey. So most of our signals in our score, they are deterministic. We do have a couple of probabilistic ones because they just had to be. There was not a deterministic way around those signals. But when I was looking and I was creating pictures for certain companies, when I was like running the audit and I was trying to look at the score for the company, I noticed that it would change depending on which day that I've run the audit. And when you're trying to pitch to a business, like, how the first thing they're going to want to know is, how come my score was 65 this day, but then it was 55 like the week after? Like, what changed? So it's I think it comes down to explainability, and this is where my preferences as a data science come in. I much prefer explainable AI rather than black box AI. I think it's better all round for consumers. It's better for governance as well. And just my own curiosity, I like to know kind of what underpins something, an output, a result. So we decided to go for a largely deterministic approach. And then when we were looking at the audits again, the score was holding much more steady. And we found that easier to explain. But also, with it being deterministic largely now, it's easier for people to action, we feel. So we break it down like a credit score. And we know that people want to break down their credit score in a similar fashion as well. They want to know why exactly they've improved. And they want it as much as possible in facts. I think people digest facts easier. I think they can be more actionable with facts. And it was better for us. It was better for our businesses that are now using us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are talking about how LLMs are not trustworthy when it comes to evaluating LLMs or themselves, right? Especially. So I think there's a line that caught my eye that you said a data extractor, LLM should be a data extractor, never a grader. And I think that's very true. We should use that to fetch data and generate data in some of use cases, but when it comes to grading how good LLM performed, that's not the best use case. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, you don't want a score based on the model's mood at the time. You want something that can be recheckable in a sense. And yeah, I think with something like a score, more probabilistic, it just doesn't work because people want to monitor at a really fine level what those changes are. They want to, it's like what we say on our website, engineer your AI visibility. So they want to see improvements in a more trustworthy way. So a lot of other players in generative engine optimization, they are going for more of a probabilistic approach. But my husband and I, we come from data, insight, AI backgrounds. So definitely the deterministic one just suits us better. And I think we can kind of see value in us coming into GEO from a non-SEO background, because we've come at it from a pure like insight data AI background. We know how AI works. So the way we present it to users has a different flavor. And yeah, hopefully people find that appealing.
Your product, is it already available? People can use it?
Yeah, it's already available.
But if you would give some advice for free for people like me who are content creators and they want to make sure that they are visible not only in search engines but also in LLMs and ChatGPT, etc. Can you give some pointers of how to present yourself, where to present yourself that can be useful?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I do have some broad tips for people who are interested. So the first thing I would make sure, and this goes back to fundamentals of branding, marketing, know who you are, know what you're offering, and know the space that you're in. Because if you don't have that proposition clear, how is AI meant to have that clear? And then how are you hoping to be discovered via AI search? So I would say that's the first one. It's definitely helpful to know who your competitors are as well. And then in terms of what you can do, I think some things like I do think a lot of content creators these days, they probably do a lot of reels on Instagram. You know, they probably have a lot of video content. And I think all that is still really important. It's really eye-catching. However, I also think that some of the more traditional things like having a blog on your website, that has suddenly got much more value again. And it does sound like it's an outdated thing, but it's not. It's become very relevant again. So we do tell our clients to, have a blog, get some case studies, get some content, have a knowledge hub like we have on our website. And then also make sure that you are cited and mentioned in a few different places. So it's no longer just about the content in your own space. It's about where else are you mentioned? Are you mentioned in places that AI trusts about your topic? So on the topic of vehicles, for instance, which I know very well, that space, are you mentioned on certain car review websites, the ones that AI trusts? And so suddenly I think the role of PR, public relation teams and media teams, they also should be using GEO platforms like ours, because there's a lot of advice for them as well. And then, just kind of, if you're creating videos, do you have them transcribed as well? It's much more easier for LLM to extract that information. So yeah, there's a few like quick wins there.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think somehow it's also liberating because you now are back to, you know, writing good content, high quality content on your blog, and somewhat it feels like the chances for you to be discovered are now even higher than they used to be with traditional engines. Because back then you only had, I don't know, some big website like Medium, etc., where you had to get posted, and now these personal blogs and content has more chance.
Yeah, it's quite surprising. You know, we have a feature called AI influence graph. So that's where we say which third-party websites that you should try to get featured on, and we'll tell you what the content topic could be about. And yeah, it's quite nice going back to things like blogs. Like I used to have a blog like maybe 15 years ago, and it's now like, oh, we're going back to blog days. I think it's quite nice.
Yeah, it is. It's a millennial renaissance, right? We're back in the game.
Indeed.
So yeah, we have a tradition here that we advise books, movies, courses, anything that can help people in this space, or anything that, you know, made you and made you build this product, anything you are truly excited about.
Okay, cool. So is it a book recommendation?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Not related to GEO at all. More because I have a daughter now, and obviously I'm thinking about her development. I definitely want her to read the Harry Potter books when she's old enough. I started reading them when I was 7, and I did find them quite challenging at that age, but it's really good for, you know, to get your reading age quite boosted, and to accelerate on that. So that would have to be my book recommendation. It's been a while since I read it, but I think I'll be revisiting it in a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. On the previous podcast episode, Evan, he talked about an alternative universe, but that's related to Harry Potter, which has this mathematician aspect to it, or scientist aspect to it. I'll send you the link. I don't remember the details, but it's basically an imaginative way to think what would have happened if Harry Potter would have more scientific education and not the one that he had. I think that would be interesting for you. If you're gonna reread, maybe you will reread that universe.
It sounds really cool. Yeah, please do send me.
Another tradition that we have is that every guest leaves a question for the next one, and coincidentally, the previous guest, he asked, what are your top 5 movies? Could also be top 3 movies. This person, Fraser, he's a recruiter. He runs his own recruiting company, and his brand, I could say, is that he talks about pop culture a lot, and that's why the question. So maybe top X movies that influenced you.
Okay, it would have to be a James Bond movie.
Oh, cool. We talked about spies before, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I would have to say I love Casino Royale. I think it's one of the last really good Bond films.
Agree.
I would also say one of my guilty pleasures is I love Tom Cruise films. I love the Mission Impossible films. I don't necessarily think that they are the best movie from a critic point of view, but I just really enjoy the action. So yeah, I like spies. I like Tom Cruise films. Any film where
a lot of action.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Cool.
yeah, not explicitly 5 listed films, but 2 really good sagas, I'd say.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Any question for the next guest? It can be anything technical, non-technical. As you see, the questions span across movie recommendations. When will we get robots? Or yeah, something.
I would probably ask. It's not a technical question, Nune.
Go ahead.
But I am cat sitting, looking after my sister's cat on the weekend, and my daughter's really excited about that. So my question for the next guest would be, if you could have any pet, what pet would you have?
Even if it's an imaginary creature.
Even better. If it's imaginary, that's even more exciting. Would love to hear it.
Cool. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Tawana. I think it was a great conversation, and hopefully people, at least I understand more about GEO now. So as a consequence, I think others too.
Thank you. It was really nice to have this discussion with you, Nuna. And thank you so much for the opportunity. I had fun.
Cool. So that was Tamana Hegg, a mathematician, lead data scientist, and a co-founder of Generative AI, a company trying to bring something rare to the loudest corner of AI, measurements you can actually reproduce. I came into this conversation skeptical, and I told you so up front. Wherever you land on GEO, I appreciate a founder who answers the uncomfortable questions instead of talking around them. Find Tamana on LinkedIn and Genside.ai. If this conversation made you think about who or what decides whether you are visible, share it with someone who's building their presence right now. I'm Nune, and let's keep root causing this. All right, we have it.